Welcome to the Future Peaks podcast. I'm your host, Dario Martinho, and today our guest has a vast experience in airline revenue management. He worked for airlines in Australia, UK, US, the Middle East, Japan, where he also worked for the Canadian Tourism Commission, and most recently he was in Papua New Guinea. His specialty is revenue management and airline commercial management. Welcome, Simon Pitt. Simon, where are you dialing in from today? Can you tell us a bit more about your exciting career?
Thank you, Dario, and thank you for the opportunity today. I'm dialing in from Brisbane, just north of Brisbane in Australia, where I'm based. In terms of a bit more about my background, I always sort of had an aptitude for analytical and numerical skills, and that sort of led me to revenue management, where I found a good alignment with my interest in travel and being able to use the skills that I possessed. I've been fortunate enough in those markets to work in both head office environments and in market environments. So I think that's gives me both perspectives of working within an airline industry, and then combined with the different cultures and experiences, that's all sort of added into my mix of being able to get a good overview of the industry and be able to contribute to an airline's commercial decision making to maximise the revenue, from a commercial revenue management perspective.
So, Simon, your journey is truly fascinating. Your specialty is revenue management. You work with all kinds of systems, methodologies, processes. Can you share examples of innovative solutions or tools that work well? What were the highlights and most innovative approaches that you took?
Yes, I've been fortunate enough to work in revenue management for quite a period of time, and over that period of time, then there's been many changes and evolutions. In terms of when I started, it was capacity management, because one of the last things the department knew about was actual yield and revenue. It was basically optimizing segment or leg flights through a RBD hierarchy in order to get the best outcome as possible. And over time, there's been several innovations in the area. The first is public and private pricing coming together, pricing and inventory coming together, in terms of the evolution to be able to take advantage of the technology that was being rolled out at the time. In particular, point of sale control, and then stepping into simple bid price and true origin and destination control. That's enabled airlines' revenue management departments to step from optimizing individual flights to optimizing the network overall. So I would probably point to origin and destination control as the last big implementation, because I also think at the moment that particular innovation and development was a particular difficult one for revenue management, because it also required changes in people's skills and organizational structure. And it took a couple of iterations for many airlines to get their department set up right to be able to use that. That side is the tools. The other side, in terms of having the tools available in terms of point of sale control and origin and destination control, and with the fare filing capabilities, it's, from my perspective, to be able to, where I've had the greatest success is being able to really segment the business in terms of the different markets, whether that be students, groups, or corporates, friends and relatives, tour operators. And it's really being able to target, with the tools available at the time, appropriate products, both inventory processes and appropriate fares to be successful, so that as an airline, we could pick and choose which segments we wanted to participate, but always keep them running continuously, so that we could manage the peaks and the troughs, both for the airline and being able to take the most out of each segment at the time that the airline wanted to.
And what gaps should we overcome for revenue management to be really effective?
I think the next evolution in terms of, I've mentioned that we went from optimizing individual flights to optimizing the network, but this has often been on a outbound or inbound basis. I think the next environment that we're currently moving into should enable the entire journey to be optimized. So I think that's where I'm looking for the tools to evolve for revenue management to be at the time of deciding whether to accept or decline a booking, is to be able to understand as many parameters around a booking as possible, and be able to optimize the entire journey, knowing the point at which you are in the booking cycle, and also from there being able to decide what opportunities are there to sell other products in the ancillaries in particular through the booking cycle, so that you might be making a particular sale in terms of the booking and the fare today, but working with our colleagues in e-commerce and marketing, you'll be able to uptrade and sell additional products through the booking cycle, such that that total booking will be worth significantly more by the time of departure. So it's having those other dimensions or knowledge of or potential of where you are in the life cycle. In terms of a corporate traveller booking 5 days beforehand, there's probably going to be limited opportunities, but it's a high yielding booking. So you'll view that in one way, but I anticipate maybe a student booking 9 months out, or a family booking a leisure travel 6 months out. There's going to be time to talk and learn more about their journey and their requirements, and be able to match ancillaries, whether they be both air and non-air components, to be able to meet the needs of the customer and also increase their value to the airline.
Now, I wanted to ask you about technology. Do you think that revenue management technology is still adequate? And what about data and KPIs?
Well, I think airlines and revenue management departments have done their best to take advantage of the technology that's been available at the time. So I think there's still a journey going forward for revenue management in terms of taking advantage of new technologies as they roll out. The current headline topic is AI, so there's a whole discussion and component for that to be built into pricing decisions, insights into customers, what other potential products could be sold, but also in terms of just the sheer computing power and the availability of data and being able to make links between different data pools. I think there's still a long way to go for airlines to be able to tap into those areas and grow their capabilities and learn more insights, both into their own business and into their customers, as to how they can extract more value.
In the light of offer and order management, revenue management finally gets the attention it deserves. And some airlines have started to bring distribution and revenue management together in organizational context to be effective in a modern airline world. Do you think this is the right approach?
Oh, certainly. From my experience, airlines that I've had the opportunity to work with, or leading airlines, revenue management has often been at the center of the commercial organization within an airline. I think with the discussions and the conversations taking place today, this is enabling other airlines that haven't maybe had that structure to learn about the benefits of putting revenue management at the center of their commercial organization, particularly with revenue management generally being the owner of the PSS, and with that replacement to the OMS, then that's reigniting the discussions and the debates as to where revenue management sits within the organization and the value that it can add to the decision-making process to maximize revenue and ultimately profitability. So I think with the technology, this is an exciting time for the industry. It's a long path, and there'll be a significant time of parallel operations of both systems. But the exciting time will particularly come at the point where EDIFACT and PSS, the traditional PSSs, start falling away, and we're left with the OMS. And the original PSSs were points of differentiation for leading airlines, and many airlines, it was common, from my understanding, many airlines to actually own their PSS and be in control of their PSS. And over time, as that was no longer a differentiator, then that was moved out into vendors and suppliers in terms of the world we have in today. But it's interesting, there are still a number of airlines, and a couple of significant airlines that own their own PSS or control their own PSS, which gives them a lot more freedom and independence. And from a revenue management perspective, it'll be interesting to see what those airlines do and whether that triggers other airlines to move more independently or to stay with today's suppliers and vendors in terms of what capabilities it can give them as we break free from the EDIFACT standards and move into a new world of airline retailing.
And looking ahead, what should revenue management look like with airlines in the ideal world?
Yeah. Well, certainly shaped by my own experiences, then I think the traditional areas of inventory, pricing and demand are going to remain key. I think you're going to see more airlines putting operational research into that domain, along with a strong IT component. And then, as we're learning through order management, there's a big opportunity around the settlement process for further optimization in terms of alternative finance options today, and being able to control, as an airline, the settlement process will understand which segment is going to be using which particular financial tools in terms of settling with the airlines. And then the whole area of ancillaries, from my perspective, they need to be split into air and non-air, and brought together with sort of a product component. And I think then fitting into the airline organization, there needs to be clear responsibilities for the optimization of revenue, and then working with colleagues in digital and e-commerce around optimization of the user experience and how products are presented through the life cycle, whether that be through direct channels or then through indirect channels by segment.
And realistically, do you think this is achievable?
Oh, certainly. I think the challenge the airlines face is that it's long timelines. So people always like to see instant results, but just from my earlier description of in my exposure to revenue management, we've moved from optimizing individual flights with very little data and just some assumptions around hierarchical RBDs. So in today's world, bringing all the big data pools that are available in airlines today, customer understanding and frequent flyer programs, the incremental steps that an airline can take, it'll definitely be achievable. It's going to take time, and it will probably be some frustration while we have to run in parallel with two systems. But once that PSS starts dropping away, then I think then there'll be a real push forward and some differentiation between airlines as they try and make use of the freedoms that are given to them from decoupling from the old legacy technology.
What is your advice for airlines in terms of revenue management and offer and order management? Where to start?
There's a lot of talk about technology, but I think the starting point comes back to people and organization. I think some of the incremental changes early on in my career, the same people skills in the same organization could pick those up and run with them. O&D really started to push the boundaries of what the technology was capable of and how individuals and people had to interact with the system and to manage the system. So I think there's a lot of learnings out of O&D control implementation that can be taken into order management. So that's why I would put people and organization from a revenue management perspective as a top priority, to be able to fully understand and to minimize lost opportunities as new technology comes in and new capabilities come in, such that the organisation is flexible and communicates across the organisation, so that, particularly in larger airlines where there's a tendency for silos, order management needs to work across many different skill sets, and it's the people and communications which are going to enable that to be successful.
Well, Simon, thank you. I'm sure this was a very insightful interview, not only on revenue management, but all your expertise in airline knowledge. So thank you so much for having the time to meet with us today.
No problem. My pleasure. And likewise, thank you very much for the conversation and the opportunity to share some of my thoughts and thinking on these areas.